Kino was actually, when I got to Tanzania, there was basically no ecosystem. At that time, I think even in Kenya, the ecosystem was just forming. iHub had just kind of started. So we were kind of getting inspired by that and said, okay, what can we do similarly here? And so a group of us got together and set up this tech hub and this kind of training and co-working space. Started getting customers from outside Tanzania asking us to deliver communication services within Tanzania. And it was like, okay, that sounds weird. Like, why the hell does someone outside want to talk to someone, right? We weren't able to really keep it sustainable. We got some grant funding, etc., but became difficult to sustain over time. So as a kid, we were pirating audio tapes. So I was at many times putting the plastic on packaging on the audio tapes.
Oh.
That was my job.
Hey guys, my name is Pisitime and you're welcome to another episode of Founders Connect. On Founders Connect, we have conversations with amazing entrepreneurs and senior operators who are building Africa's leading companies. Today, we're having a conversation with Taha Jiwaji. He's the founder and CEO of Beem. Beem is a business that helps other businesses across Africa to engage with their customers, build relationships, and therefore grow their business. He's Tanzanian born, of Indian origin, so we're going to learn all about him, how he started his first company, how he built Tanzania's first co-working space and leading hub, and how he has been bootstrapping Beem over the last almost 8 years plus. So if you're interested in what's happening out in the East African scene, what's happening with Beem across Africa, then you should definitely stay and watch this video to the end. We also have some fun questions that we're trying out, so this will actually be a very interesting conversation. I'll see you at the end. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about growing up, first of all, like family background, where did you grow up?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Tanzanian. I don't look Tanzanian, perhaps.
Actually.
Yeah, but so I'm of Indian origin, third generation. So my grandfather moved to Tanzania, early 1900s. So, you know, I identify myself as Tanzanian and grew up there. My parents, or my dad was an entrepreneur and started a business. And that's basically how, you know, it's been in the family and in the blood, I guess, since I was born.
Family of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and I spent a lot of time growing up at the shop. We were actually selling pirated audio videotapes. Before copyright was a thing.
Yeah.
So we had rows of kind of copying machines and packaging and printing and all of these things. And then we had customers from different countries who wanted Tanzanian music and all of these other things. So that's kind of how I got started in my background in entrepreneurship. And I've always been in business, in the family business in that sense. So when the business evolved to then become digital, so from audio videotapes it went to VCDs and DVDs. So I was helping that transition and kind of understanding the technology. And eventually the business moved into video editing and actually music production.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so we set up the digital editing studio, I helped my dad set up the digital editing side of things. So, yeah, I've always been in business in that sense.
Interesting. Do you have siblings?
I have a sister, yes, a younger sister.
A younger sister.
Yeah.
What did you study in school?
In high school?
Yeah, I mean high school, and if you went to uni, what was that like?
High school, I enjoyed math and physics and computers. Not a biology, chemistry person for sure. But yeah, the problem-solving side of things always interested me, and technology always interested me. I think we got a computer fairly early on. I think 93, 94. Those floppy disks where you had to put in, and the old Windows machines. So that was definitely always part of my life. In university, I guess I was overambitious. I did 2 degrees.
2 degrees?
Yeah, so I did...
How many years did that take you?
4. So in 4 years, I was able to cram 2 degrees in 4 years.
Interesting.
a bunch of summer classes, and I had credits from high school and things like that. So I did computer engineering and business. So I have 2 degrees.
So you have a BSc in both.
I have a BSc and a BA.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely overambitious. There were some semesters when it was very, very overloaded. But no, it was fulfilling.
Why did you do both degrees?
Because, so, like I said, business has always been part of me and the family, so that was important. And then the engineering side is just me, right? I want to problem solve, and I always believe that and whenever I even recommend to kind of high school students who I counsel, you want to do the hardest things early in college, right? Because it's not like you can say, I'm going to learn engineering after part-time. Like, it doesn't happen, right? So do the hardest things in college, and then everything else, you could have learned business later, you could learn accounting and stuff later, but so that's why I said, okay, I gotta do that. Yeah, I might as well go through that pain.
Interesting. What was the favorite, your best time in uni? Like, doing 2 degrees, I wonder, did you have like any nice memories aside just reading and trying to pass exams?
No, like I said, I was an overachiever. I was also part of a lot of student clubs. So probably the best one, which I spent the most time in and had still have very fond memories of, was Engineers Without Borders. So there we would basically go to remote communities and build water systems. And so we went to Honduras a bunch of times, and we built spring water systems and water systems for these villages. And yeah, that wasn't computer engineering in any shape or form, but you learn all of the other skill sets, like project management and how do you deal with stakeholders and other team members, how to get things done when people don't have the time to do them, when they're just volunteering to do them, all of those kinds of things.
Interesting. And when you graduated, did you, in terms of career, did you go into the business route or did you go into the engineering route?
When I went to?
When you graduated from
When I graduated, yeah.
So which of them did you?
What did I choose? So I did some internships first. So the first 2 internships were very engineering, so software engineering focused. One was at a lighting company, was building lighting systems. And one was at a financial services company. They were doing like stock trading and wealth management. So we were building software for them. But then when I graduated, I moved into tech consulting. And there, I would say I was doing more project management,
right,
as opposed to hardcore software development. And so that was kind of the starting point of me moving into business.
Okay, so tell me a bit about sort of like the journey from tech consulting to where you are now.
Where was I?
Yeah.
So the journey actually starts in college.
Okay.
3 of us, 2 Tanzanians and a Kenyan, basically wanted to do a startup. And we found this problem with student groups that they, who doesn't like free pizza, right? So you don't want to miss out on free lunch. But I remember this is 2006, 2007, there was no way for you to get, you had to basically check your email, log into a computer and check your email if you got a reminder.
Yeah.
Smartphones didn't exist at this time. So we said, okay, what if we could send an SMS reminder to a student just an hour before the lunch event, so that they would get a higher attendance and wouldn't miss out on the free pizza. So we built a little bit of a small prototype. It was called Campus SMS, and we were trying to get student groups to sign up to use this to basically communicate with their with their attendees. So that worked. We had a few student groups using it, but we graduated the next year and then it kind of fizzled out. So that idea kind of stuck with me.
Interesting.
And then when I started working, I basically realized that I didn't want to continue working for someone very quickly. It's just not in my nature, I think. And I was always kind of trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? And I was in the States at that time after college. I did college in the US and then I started working there. It wasn't going to be easy for me to stay and actually do a business in the US, given all their visa processes and etc. So I knew I had to go home to kind of follow that dream, right? And so I was trying to figure out, okay, what kind of problems should I be solving? And my parents' business at that time, they had now transitioned to basically selling computers and video editing equipment and stuff. And their challenge at that time was how to reach students who bought a lot of laptops and send them offers. And that's why then the SMS idea came back and we started experimenting with that again. Initially it was just, those Nokia 3310 phones, create a list and send messages manually and see if it works. So we did that and it worked. And then we started talking to other businesses in my parents' network, and did they have similar problems? And those problems were similar, and these things helped them as well. And so we said, okay, how do we make this a product? And that's how the journey started.
Interesting. But before you started that, I saw like on your LinkedIn that you did I think Kinu,
yeah.
Yeah, it was like a co-working space in Tanzania. So was that our point? So you just kind of talked about the journey to kind of like get into the product, which is Beem Africa.
Correct, yeah.
What was in between?
So the Kinu actually happened simultaneously.
So you kept doing things.
Yeah, the hustle is always there, right? So the Kinu was actually, when I got to Tanzania, there was basically no ecosystem. At that time, I think even in Kenya, the ecosystem was just forming. iHub had just kind of started. So we were kind of getting inspired by that and said, okay, what can we do similarly here? And so a group of us got together and set up this tech hub and this kind of training and co-working space. It was the first kind of private tech hub to open, and we would gather people in the community there, do a lot of meetups and things, but we weren't able to really keep it sustainable. We got some grant funding, etc., but became difficult to sustain over time, and so that kind of fizzled out. But yeah, those things were happening in parallel at that time.
Interesting. How do you manage to do different things at the same time? I mean, and that's consistently over years.
Over years, yeah. I guess it's just a lot of different passions and different stages of life, I guess. And so you just juggle and kind of say, how do I make time for this? And while still continuing kind of your main source of income and that main priority.
Makes sense. So going back to talk about Beem, right? When you started the story, it felt like it started sort of like systematically. So finding out the problem, speaking to more people, finding out the problem. At what point did it become, this is solely the only thing I want to do? And it's been like many years now.
Yeah. So it's, my parents thought I was mad. That I was, leaving this nice cushy job in LA with everything paid for and kind of just literally just closing shop and coming to start this, right? In a place where, yes, I grew up there, but I basically didn't have a network and didn't have any corporate experience there. So that's what I wanted to do, and I just set up shop. It was just me, essentially.
So no co-founder.
No co-founder, no employees at that time initially, working out of a room in the house. And so it was really just a struggle, just meeting a lot of people. I think in the first year, I remember counting, and I had about 1,000 business cards, right? And so I had met and had a lot of conversations basically in that initial time frame. I was very focused on kind of making this work. I think I didn't realize that it took a long time to really get product market fit.
How long?
So I would say we got to about 3-4 years. The business was growing, like we were getting customers, but it wasn't something where you could say, no, this was something that's going to grow and really make it big, right? And so during that time, we were just experimenting with different things related to the same concepts to say, okay, what has a bigger opportunity? And I think it was around 2015-16 when we really found something else that we saw, no, this has a much bigger opportunity that we can address. And that's when things started kind of taking off.
Makes sense. For people who don't know, how would you describe what Beem?
So we like to call it, or we like to say that our mission is really, we want to enable businesses to create relationships with their customers. And because those relationships will help those businesses grow and get more business in the long run. And we do that through different ways and for different use cases, right? So it could be for sales, it could be for marketing, it could be for authentication, and using the phone as the primary means of doing that. So over SMS, over USSD, over airtime, and now over chat on WhatsApp, Facebook, and Instagram. So that's what we kind of do in a nutshell. And we offer those solutions in 3 different products. Either as an API for the kind of tech-enabled businesses to integrate and leverage our infrastructure across many African markets, so 25 African markets. Or we have self-serve solutions for the non-tech businesses, which are what we call Beem Engage, which is our marketing platform for SMS and WhatsApp. And then we have our newest platform, which is called Moja, which means one in Swahili.
One.
Yeah, and that's really bringing all the chat communication channels in one place for businesses to leverage for sales, for social commerce, and for support or customer service, either through chatbots or through a chat contact center that they can leverage. So these are some of the things that we enable for businesses to create and retain those relationships with customers.
Makes sense. So I think about businesses like that, most founders I've spoken to, the idea now is not really always how the idea started. There's always like a pivot or a change in direction or
Correct.
a way where the company evolves, right? If you had to think about Beem's journey and maybe 2 or 3 critical moments that has changed either the direction or the strategy, what would those moments be?
Yeah. I think the initial concept that we started off actually was an SMS marketing service purely, right? So we were actually trying to connect businesses to customers. And so people would sign up, think of it like a Groupon on SMS. So people would sign up and say, look, I'm Peace, I'm this age, I'm interested in X, Y, and Z. And then we would connect those customers or those subscribers to businesses based on the offers, right? Based on those interests. And then the other side of the business was really, I have my existing customers and I want to communicate with them. The marketing side didn't really take off, so we kind of shut that down over time. I think the next pivot was really, we realized that the API and the infrastructure part of it was a much bigger opportunity. And so we really started going after that. And we understood that because we started getting customers from outside Tanzania asking us to deliver communication services within Tanzania. And it was like, okay, that sounds weird. Like, why the hell does someone outside want to talk to someone, right? But the more we kind of understood that space, it seemed like it was a big opportunity. And the more we talked to those customers, we understood that it's not just Tanzania, they want all of Africa. So we quickly pivoted to serving those kinds of businesses and grew a lot after that, right? Because we started building relationships and presence in many African markets, right? So every year we kept adding, and to the extent we're now in all these markets and delivering communication services in all these markets. So that was the kind of the first big pivot. And then the second one was really, we said, okay, we've done SMS really well. What more can we add? And we started adding now then USSD, airtime, and other services on top of that suite. And then the third pivot now has been chat has come in as a channel, because now consumers have moved, right? Businesses were moving all this time, but consumer demand and their patterns have changed. And so businesses now have to adapt to that. And so we're kind of building the tools for those businesses to now say, how do we serve customers now where the customers have moved to?
In all of this, what has been the most challenging points?
Few things, I think. We've never raised any money.
Why? I know that's a different question, but why?
We tried.
Okay.
So remember, this is 2011, 12. The VC space essentially didn't exist. So whatever we tried, we basically got different reasons why we shouldn't get funded, right? Either the team wasn't, I didn't have co-founders, or the product wasn't good enough, or the market wasn't big enough. And I said, everyone had a different reason. So either I didn't know what I was doing, or they didn't understand the space, right?
And there's too many different feedback.
Yeah, so then I just said, look, we're gonna do it, whatever happens. So we just kept at it. And so that their persistence and being in the market has really driven our growth. And then because we were profitable, we just kept doing what we were doing.
Because that was my next question, because some founders get a lot of no's, and then they kind of like, you know what, let me build it to an extent and then go back and raise money because it'll be easier, but you just never went back. Yeah,
because we just realized, look, we can grow it. Probably we should have started raising earlier. In hindsight, because we might have been able to hire better talent, which is probably the biggest challenge that we've had as a business. How do you find the best talent in a market like Tanzania, and how do we retain that talent? And also, how do you find the right talent for that right stage of the company? Right? We've had many challenges where we hire for the next stage where we want to be, but then that person just cannot fit into the business. So that's always I think people and talent have been our kind of biggest challenge.
Yeah, I mean, the question I also have is, why didn't you get a co-founder? I mean, so you had because your first experience was also with two other founders. So one would have thought you would just keep
going. Yeah, no, I tried. When I came back to Tanzania, I tried to see if there are other people who I kind of aligned with and were on the same wavelength. But couldn't find anyone that fit. And like I said, the ecosystem didn't exist. Entrepreneurship, tech entrepreneurship wasn't really a thing. And so that pool of people was very, very, very small.
So I'm curious, when you talked about Kino, You talked about moving to Tanzania, and there wasn't any tech ecosystem there. And so you built like one of the first hubs that kind of like help build the ecosystem as well. And you've also like talked around the challenges of like people and talent and co-founders. So if you look back at maybe how many years since you moved back, it's 9?
No, over 10. Yeah.
Over 10 years. How would you describe the growth or evolution of the ecosystem in Tanzania
Okay.
/, Kenya, because I think you kind of do business across both, then versus now, and how I guess the times have affected how the business has grown as well?
No, definitely. I think the ecosystem's evolved quite a bit. I think Kenya definitely a lot faster, primarily because there's a bigger pool of people and talent here, and also a lot of money coming into the ecosystem, which then drives it and kind of creates a flywheel, right? Tanzania is catching up. I think we're still not there yet, but I definitely see more, I can say, more experienced kind of entrepreneurs coming into the space, who either have tried different things before and now have found their product market fit and are scaling, or have moved back from outside and want to build in Tanzania. So definitely good signs for the ecosystem in that sense, but definitely a long way to go. Yeah.
What is your biggest market at Beem? Because you said 25 African markets.
Yeah. So Tanzania is definitely a big one because that's our home market. So that's there. But then we, do business across many, right? So even Nigeria is one of our big markets. Francophone Africa, like Senegal, some of these are big markets. Zambia, etc.
Interesting. And how do you decide on what markets to go into?
Good question, right? So I think initially we did a kind of an exercise of kind of figuring out where mobile penetration is growing the fastest and which markets were unserved, right? So most people would have gone to Kenya and Nigeria first, but we went to all the other markets outside of those, because we said, okay, there's probably other people doing this in those markets, so how do we find all the other markets and
so you're trying to be first mover in all of them?
Yes, win there, and then we'll figure out how to do those other markets.
And did it work?
Of course, right? I mean, I think where we are because that's really worked well for us. Because there's probably no one serving those markets, and we're able to deliver those services reliably in those markets.
Makes sense. I think every founder I've spoken to, the general feeling is that entrepreneurship is hard, and having a co-founder makes it easier sometimes.
Yeah.
So how have you managed to sort of like balance your personal life with the challenges that come of running a startup as a solo founder?
Yeah, very good question. I think I get a lot of family support, right? So my dad and my parents are still, very much supportive and kind of understand what it takes and kind of support in that sense. My wife also is kind of understands what she's signed up for and kind of also is part of the business now and kind of works with us. So yeah, those are the kind of some of the things that are critical, right? And then obviously the team that we've built now kind of helps take over some of those responsibilities and grow the business.
A lot of startups right now are fundraising. Like, in fact, founders feel like the easiest way to build a business is to fundraise, and then that also gives them like a lot more resources to move faster. And you kind of mentioned it before we started doing the video, right? Like, a lot of the budget is more controlled versus like other VC-backed companies. So how do you manage competition, knowing that we are profitable, we don't have a lot of funding that we can just like blow through stuff, but then some of your competitors are coming in and they're getting that funding and can do things faster? How do you sort of like balance that?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, and it's something that we're seeing right now as well. I think we're not too worried in the sense that we're selling to businesses, and businesses move at their own pace.
Sure.
You can't force adoption, right? With consumers, you can incentivize it and kind of drive it and try to ramp up numbers much faster. With businesses, you can't really do that.
Sell.
You still have to sell,
relationships.
and that's still going to work at the same pace, right? And even that needs a lot of learning, right? To get the sales process, the product market fit right, all of those things have to align, right? And we've already been doing that for years. So in that sense, we already understand some of the things that don't work and do work.
So you're kind of already ahead of the curve.
And we're ahead of the curve in that sense, right? So, and then the market is big, right? So I don't think it just means that there's more room. If all of these people are coming to solve those problems, there's more room to do that. And I think the fact that we're not funded helps us a lot.
It does?
In the sense that we're a lot more disciplined.
Right.
Right? We just don't do things for the sake of doing things or because the investor said you have to grow to X numbers, right? We don't grow to a market until we've got product market fit and in the markets that we are already in, and then say, okay, can we translate those to the new markets, right? Yeah. So in that sense, there's pros and cons to both.
If you had to go back 10 years and you had all the lessons that you have, like you've gone through the experience, you kind of have an idea of like, this is what it would take to build Beem.
Yeah.
Are there any things that you would do differently in starting the company? Like, are there mistakes that you've made that you'd be like, this was a mistake, so I'm going to correct it in this second chance?
Yeah, I think if we could get really good co-founders to complement my skill sets and would have been great, particularly around the operations, people side, because I think I felt that I could do it and didn't realize that it's a really specialized set of skills that you need, and because startups in itself and at the end is people, right? Everything else is just you build things, but at the end of the day it's the people.
Yeah.
So if you're able to get that right, then I think you're able to grow much faster. I think we could have raised money earlier, once we've figured out the product market fit. And if we had the right co-founding team and then the funding, I think we could have accelerated that growth.
Is there fundraising in your future? Or you think
we're considering it. We're considering it, yeah.
It makes sense. What are some of the, if you think through, top 3 biggest lessons you've learned that other entrepreneurs, your peers, and even upcoming entrepreneurs can learn from your journey?
I think we talked a lot about our failures and kind of the lessons learned. So I won't mention that again, but I think persistence is a big one. I think just being in the space for a long time gives you a lot of insights that other people don't have, and brings a lot of opportunities to you, right? Which other people don't have access to, right? If they're just starting in that space. So I think sticking it out and staying with the business for a while, eventually bears fruit, right? And it will. The more you focus on something, luck will follow that, right? Because you've put in the time and the effort in that space. Yeah. So I think that's something that I always kind of suggest to people. And I think, keep experimenting and keep trying different things. And don't kind of, just because one thing worked and you're making a lot of money on it, doesn't mean that that's going to continue and continue being the business going forward. And keep learning. I think we did the Stanford program last year, and it was really, really helpful. It kind of helped us reset the business and kind of go back to school as a business,
right.
Not just me, but the entire business, right? And so that was a very important also process of understanding that we need to kind of go back and learn and kind of see things differently, and that has helped us.
Wait, if you think about your childhood, because I mean, we started talking about your family and your grandparents being business owners, your dad being a business owner, and how they can also help you start in this business. how has that really like influenced you in terms of like, oh, this is like a tangible business lesson that I picked up from my family that has really contributed to me running my own business?
I think what you learn is how to trade. I think that's what I learned, that how to buy and sell and create profit and margin, and how to make those numbers work, and how to have really good relationships with your suppliers and your customers, right? Because that's what served us, and that's what my parents did as well, and those lessons have kind of continued on.
Makes sense. What does the future look like for you and for Beem? If we had the same conversation in 5 years.
5 years, yeah. I think we're very focused on growing the business. We've been growing at a very steady clip over the last 3 years, organically, which is great.
Yeah.
We've been growing the team. We're almost at about 40 people now. So that growth is coming. We're also very focused on building this new side of the business around social commerce and conversational commerce. And we're looking to take this to all the markets that we're present in, or other markets. So that's definitely what we're focused on in the next coming years.
Makes sense. Final question.
Yeah.
So if someone watches the video and you want them to take one thing only from your story and from the story of Beem, what would that be?
I think if you're focused on the problem that you're solving and the mission that you originally started on, for long enough, with or without funding, right? You will see success in some form, right? Because it's a problem and you're trying to solve that problem. Now, how big that becomes, or how big that business becomes, depends on many factors. How big that opportunity is, and the team, and the how the market plays out. All those kind of external things that have to come together. But things do happen, right? And so stick with it, and keep that passion for that problem solving there, and eventually you will succeed.
So just keep at it.
Yeah, the persistence plus the drive to keep solving that problem.
And keep refining.
Keep refining, iterating, and improving the business and yourself will eventually lead to success.
What's the weirdest job you've ever done?
Weirdest job?
Weirdest job, yeah.
Paid job?
No,
Weirdest paid job. Weirdest job that I've done. That's a good question. So as a kid, we were pirating audio tapes. So I was at many times putting the plastic on packaging on the audio tapes.
Oh.
That was my job. And it was very rudimentary. You had to put the plastic sleeve over the audio tape and actually use an iron to seal the tape. So it was a careful, coordinated, choreographed process because you didn't want to burn your fingers. So yeah, that's the one I can think of.
That's actually a good one. If you're not in tech right now and building Beem Africa, what would you be doing?
I think I want to be mentoring other startups or businesses, even non-tech. I think there's a lot of business owners who have these businesses, don't know how to grow them, and I think I can share my insights and my learnings, and potentially and also do some investments.
You like to share knowledge and teach, right? Because you talked about counseling high school students earlier.
Yes, yeah, I also counsel a lot of students on career paths and things like that. So I'm not too patient, but at least that's something I enjoy. So I can't say I'm a true teacher, because I would have to be very, very patient to be a teacher. Yeah.
Fair enough. What's a surprising hobby or talent that you have that not a lot of people know about?
Hobby or talent that I have. So I enjoy the outdoors a lot, and I enjoy hiking a lot. So I don't get to do it as much, but yeah, as any opportunity I get.
What's the best place that you've hiked?
So I've done Kilimanjaro. So
You have?
I've summited Kilimanjaro.
Interesting.
So
When was that?
It's 2017. So definitely,
yes, get some pictures.
definitely, encourage anyone to do that experience.
Okay, and probably need to hike a lot first before you.
Yeah. But it's definitely worth it.
Cool. What's the most random thing you've Googled recently?
Random thing I've Googled recently. Who came up with these questions? Shucks. Random things. I Google a lot of things, but random things that I've Googled. So I'm I'm learning a lot about Bitcoin and all of these things, and I'm trying to understand macroeconomic policy. So really trying to understand the Fed's money supply and how that works, and it's a very nuanced kind of thing, but that I wanted to understand.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you want to go into Bitcoin crypto investing?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing some of that, but really just understanding what's being at play behind the scenes.
Makes sense. 2 more questions.
Yeah.
What's one thing from your childhood that you still do as an adult?
One thing from my childhood.
Aside business.
Aside from business. So I used to do a lot of Lego as a kid, and so I still doing that with my son, trying to play Lego with him.
Ah, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Final question. What's the most ridiculous thing someone has asked you about your startup?
Ridiculous thing that they've asked about your startup. I think the one thing I still find in this thing is that the businesses expect, or people expect, that because you're so big, or they think you're big, that now you can give away stuff, right? So they think, you should be able to give away some of your services. Why don't you give away for free or let us try it for 6 months? And so those are always interesting conversations.
Like, no, we still are in the business of making money.
Exactly.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Taha. It was very nice to learn about you and Beem.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the conversation.
Thank you. I thought that was a very interesting conversation, and I really liked Taha's favorite lesson where he said, persistence. If you stay on something long enough, you would solve it, and you refine a problem, but eventually, it will lead to a really good place. It reminded me of something that Mfon Ego said recently, if you think about a problem long enough, you will eventually find a solution for it. So I really connected to that lesson. I also think that it was really cool just seeing another founder who was bootstrapped, and it's not kind of pressure to make money. I think it's very important for businesses and founders across Africa to keep learning that, yes, it's great to fundraise, and it's fantastic because you get all of the resources, but if you get a lot of notes early on, it doesn't mean that you can still build a fantastic business. Beem is serving business across 25 countries in Africa and still looking to expand to more. So that's a very interesting lesson for everybody to remember that there are many ways to build a business. Fundraise, bootstrap, either way, just keep staying on the problem and refine your business idea until you find product market fit and you keep scaling. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Make sure you don't leave this channel without subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.